I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring your ass.
These guys survived the David Kahn era of Timberwolves basketball and live to tell about it. It's Flagrant Howls.
Well, Judd, the sports dad, Judd Zulgad, Kyle Tighe making his return tomorrow to Flagrant Howls. It's a glorious time.
That's awesome.
Because the NBA, it's great to have Kyle back tomorrow after a summer respite from Flagrant Howls. But we got major breaking Timberwolves news. It's a glorious time of year. Player movement, free agency. The draft was last week.
Flush with cap space.
Yeah, well, flushed with something, I guess. Luxury tax payments.
Yep.
But we have major breaking Timberwolves news to start the show. Folks, he's coming back on a 2-year contract. Luka Garza has re-signed with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let me see if I can find a flag.
He must really love it here. That's all I got to say. He must really love it here. He must like the locker room a lot, or perhaps the restaurants. Because I don't think playing time is going to be in abundance this coming season. But yes, Luka's back. I like it.
He's back. Yeah, one of the most versatile garbage time basketball players in NBA history. Garbage time. So he's back on a 2-year contract. That's all the Wolves have done so far.
2-year one way now?
Yeah, so what he is officially, he's not going to be playing in Iowa.
So he doesn't have to drive back and forth or however they do the commute.
And he was
35.
he played like maybe a handful of games last year. So
he was on the bench a lot.
Yeah, he had graduated to Mark Madsen status at least, like waving a towel. But I mean, that dude has worked his ass off. He's chiseled. He knocks down threes. You know, there was that game early in the year against Denver where they had to throw him in because, or was it like February? I can't remember when it was, but it was at Target Center, and all 3 of their big men were out, and Garza played like Denver. 30 minutes, and they almost won the game.
The Nuggets game, yeah. They played well.
Yeah. So Luka Garza's back, and the Timberwolves are just shopping in the veteran minimum bin here. They're looking for discounts. They're looking for that hidden gem used DVD, just something that can help them.
When you go to a store and it's got a clearance on, and you come like the last day of that clearance and shelves are empty, and like there'll be like stuff on the shelves, but it's
there's
not
there's like a Joe Ingles. It's not quite what it was 5 years ago, but
and that's what's left.
So I have a list for you, and this will be a pretty quick episode because we want to say hi and throw some names at you, and then react and see what happens between now and tomorrow too. But I've got some veteran minimum free agent. By the way, they might not all be veteran minimum guys, because if one of them gets a few $1 million, then they wouldn't be on this list. But just some potential options who can knock down some threes, can come in, maybe give you 15 or 20 minutes, maybe replace Kyle Anderson, who reportedly is on the hunt for more than the veteran minimum. So I'll throw those names at you in just a second here. Let me throw this name at you first, though. Dennis Kirk and DennisKirk.com. For all you riders out there, 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories, whether it's motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes, you name it, all the top brands. Dennis Kirk offers same-day shipping on orders placed before 8 p.m. Central Time, and free shipping on orders over $89. You can find them online at DennisKirk.com. We appreciate them supporting us here at Score North. DennisKirk.com. And also, Nicolas Law is the exclusive personal injury law firm of Score North Podcasts, and they are here to help when you get into an accident of some kind. You've suffered an injury. Nicolas Law, proud to serve the communities that they live in here in the Twin Cities. They're just normal, everyday folks that happen to have law degrees to help you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get Nicolas at NicolasLaw.com, or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAS. So, okay, would you like to go through this list with me here?
Yes, let's do it. Most definitely.
So, yeah, these are just potential veteran minimum guys that are looking to extend their career or looking to bounce back from an injury or something.
It's an NBA old folks home.
Yeah, that's.
I went through the list.
But they still have their faculties about them.
Oh, yeah, no. Hey, look, I will rephrase. It's not an old folks home. It's one of those apartments where you have to be a certain age to live there.
Yeah.
But you don't need any help. You're just, it's just like a retirement community.
Definitely the 30 plus or 35 plus living area of the
Nice
National
living,
Basketball
though.
Association.
Nice apartments. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Fully furnished. It's great. So I'm going to put these in order of my intrigue, starting with number 1, Nicolas Batum, who, if you've been a Wolves fan for a while, the Wolves' flirtation with Nick Batum goes back 10 plus years to the David Kahn era. They offered him a restricted free agency contract like 2011 or something.
He signed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was matched.
And did Portland match it? I think?
Yeah, Portland matched it. He was going to be a Timberwolf.
So the organization's flirtation with Batum and fascination with him, he's like the one that got away back in the early 2000 teens.
Yep.
He's 35 years old now. Could be a great Kyle Anderson replacement. You're looking for kind of a jack of all trades, a guy that can go out there. On some nights, it's going to be 12 minutes. On other nights, it might need to be 25 or 30 minutes. The biggest difference between Batum and Kyle Anderson, though, in the Wolves' favor, is Batum is a 40% three-point shooter, closer to 45% from the corners. So he's not a guy that's going to shoot a lot in games. He's very much comfortable being out there for 18 or 20 minutes and shooting the ball twice. But when he does shoot, he knocks down three-pointers still. He can rebound a little bit. He can pass, kind of do the fill-in-the-cracks type stuff that Kyle Anderson does. But imagine some of these. I mean, you were at enough of these playoff games with me, like all of them.
Yeah.
And tic-tac-toe, bing, bang, boom, and the ball winds up in the corner, and Kyle Anderson's wide open, and he's thinking to himself, should I shoot it? Should I not?
What I would do, which is, I don't think so.
Yeah. And he brought a lot of value, and I don't want to
defensively, he's really good.
diminish. Yeah, but Batum shoots those shots and makes them at a very high clip, and would be a very interesting replacement if Kyle Anderson moves on.
What's the price tag there? Do you think?
Vet min, like a couple $1 million. So
okay, because I mean that's a good deal for him.
Everybody on this list is like veteran minimum contracts.
Okay.
Whatever the current, I think it's like a couple $1 million, whatever the current price tag is.
Because that one intrigues me a lot. Like that's what you really need.
Yep. Yeah, they can't, like, if any of these guys becomes like a $10 million player, the Wolves can't.
Right.
They're not allowed to shop in that bin right now. So,
right.
Okay, the next guy on the list here, Joe Ingles.
Yes, I love
so
this one.
he turns 37 in October.
Yes, he does.
But he still shoots 40% from downtown, 46% from the corners. He spent 9 years on those Utah teams, so he's very familiar playing with Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley for a few of those years. Recently, the last 2 years, he's been in Milwaukee and Orlando, but he's played in a bunch of playoff games. And a guy that at this point in his career, he's certainly comfortable playing 6 minutes or, if needed, 20 minutes. But he can shoot, and he has a lot of familiarity with guys that are already in the starting lineup. So,
44% from three this past year, and over 40% on threes, to your point, for 3 of the past 4 years. Mm-hmm. This is a hired gun.
He's old.
He's old, but I don't know that his age matters that much, because he's just going to come in and snipe.
Yep.
So Batum, there's an age gap there by a little bit, and we've seen Joe before. Joe looks like he showed up from a workout at the health club, and it's continuing to participate in like noon basketball games. But then the son of a buck just buries threes.
It's hilarious.
I actually like this one a lot.
Yeah, there's a little flair and a personality to Joe Ingles. By the way, just to be specific, you were asking about like the price tag. So
yeah,
the NBA veteran minimum is based on years of experience. So for guys that are 5-year veterans, it's $2.4 million. If you're a 7-year veteran, it's $2.8 million. If you're a 10+ year veteran, which these last two guys would be, it'd be $3.3 million. So that would, you're able to sign these guys within the salary cap rules, but obviously like you're already in the second apron, so that money is taxed exponentially.
Sure.
But Glenn Taylor, from what I've heard, has already like greenlit any and all expenditures. So, okay, another guy here, Jae Crowder, who's a very familiar name if you watch playoff basketball the last 10 years. He turns 34 years old this weekend. 115 career playoff games, including a bunch of finals games. Now, injuries and age have eroded his game from where it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yes.
But he's still a very good three-point shooter, especially in the corner. So he shoots over 40% in the corners. I keep bringing up corner threes because that's an area that this team gets a lot of open corner threes. Anthony Edwards driving, Karl-Anthony Towns commanding double teams, right? There's just a lot of opportunities for guys to shoot corner threes in this offense. And
Absolutely.
You could argue that, in that Denver series when the Wolves were losing some of the games, Dallas, like the inability to make wide open threes or catch and shoot corner threes. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, streaky. Jaden McDaniels, better in the postseason, struggled second half of the year. If you have guys that can just stretch and sit there and catch and shoot off of Anthony Edwards drives, that's a huge component to improving this offense, I think, personally.
Yep. So Crowder went from on threes in 2022-23, 44% to 35% this past year. Is there a concern there about the decline? Because I will say this, Ingles just basically hits threes. He's older by what? 3 years, 4 years.
Yep.
But is the decline in Crowder's three-point accuracy a concern?
I think everything about his decline the last 2 years is a bit of a concern. Like he's not the same dude from like 3 or 4 years ago. At least he hasn't been. But he's also younger than both of the guys I mentioned before. Right. So he's actually one of the younger guys.
I feel like he plays a more physically punishing game.
He is. He's like 6'6", 6'7", but he's about 235. He's very much a bruising sort of size player.
Gotcha.
Okay. Danilo Galinari turns 36 years old next month. And again, some of these guys might not wind up being vet minimum guys. We have to find out. But he's a 6'10" sniper during his peak years.
Yes.
I don't know exactly what he's going to be here 36, 37 years old. He had his second ACL tear 2 seasons ago. Missed the entire year. He comes back last year at age 35 off another torn ACL, trying to get back into the swing of things, and he winds up playing for 3 different teams, which when you're talking about chemistry and flow and offensive systems, it's just sometimes really good shooters can struggle going to a new team because you're just not used to
2 terrible teams too.
Yep. Well, Detroit, Washington,
and so he went Washington, Detroit to the Bucks.
Yeah.
So he had 1 good team.
And even like the Bucks were trying to figure out who they were. I'm making excuses here. He did not have a great season.
Yep.
He's getting older. He's coming off a second torn ACL. Does he need to just settle back in, be with a team, practice with a team that knows what it's doing? Or is he cooked? Now, Tim Connolly had him in Denver like 8 years ago.
He might be too old.
He might need to go to the assisted NBA living facility.
Yeah, this one scares me because of that. More so.
But if you're getting a more settled in version of him, this is what's tough to say. It's like, all right, dude, you were coming off a torn ACL in Washington and Detroit.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm intrigued, but fully understand.
I'm more intrigued by your first 2 so far.
Okay.
Most intrigued, I should say.
Dougie McBuckets.
Yep.
Doug McDermott. If you're young. He's like the youngest guy in this old facility. Yeah. He's 32 years old. If you're just looking for a guy to knock down a bunch of 3-pointers, 41% career, 44% from the corner, you could do a lot worse than 15 minutes a night of Doug McDermott. But you have to hide him on defense. He's going to be a situational rotation guy at this point in his career.
Yeah. Here's what's weird. He shot with the Pacers this past year, 32% on threes overall. But he was 18 of 56. So he just shot he didn't really play. A
small sample there. He gets traded midseason. Yeah. Or what was it? I can't remember if it was a trade or if it was a buyout situation, but he winds up, and that's our thing. Like sometimes with shooters, if they get traded middle of the season, all right, these are new teammates. It's a new flow. It's new, maybe a new spot on the floor, like relative to the place that you were at before.
Sure.
It's just, again, it's a different arena. Like it's all these things sometimes stack up to where a guy struggles with his first 50 or 60 shots, small sample size. Mm-hmm. Do I think Doug McDermott forgot how to shoot? No.
Yeah.
I would trust that he would shoot 40% wherever he winds up with this upcoming season.
Fair enough.
So, okay, Gordon Hayward. Now he might wind up because he was making like $30 million off his expired contract. He's made almost $300 million playing NBA basketball. 34 years old. I think it's one of two things for him. He either goes somewhere that's sort of rebuilding. He was with Charlotte for all those years and scores 15 to 18 points on kind of a crappy team, maybe for more than the veterans minimum. Or if he wants to, in his mid-30s, actually be a key member of a team that can win a championship, there's still some juice left there, man. He can still, I think he 40% on threes the last several years, closer to 45% from the corner. I think he could be a good role player who plays like 15 to 20 minutes a night on a contending team off the bench.
I'm intrigued by that.
Which is what Oklahoma City had him coming off the bench for like 15 minutes. Just be a part of our flow here.
Absolutely.
So if you could convince him. Now, if his ego is flaring up and he thinks he can still, I don't know. I think this is kind of where he's at in his career, though. And then Alec Burks is the next guy on the list here. Mm-hmm. Super interesting. So Doogie was floating because Alec Burks, he switched teams. He went to the Knicks?
Knicks.
I believe last year.
To the Knicks.
And Doogie kind of floated his name as a guy to watch in the buyout market. It didn't turn out for the Wolves, but 33 years old this summer. Another guy that played with Gobert in Utah for several years. He missed Mike Conley by a year. Really solid three-point shooter, 40+% from downtown. And a guy that can get you like 10, 12, 15 points in less than 20 minutes a night coming off the bench. He might get more than the vet minimum, but that's a really interesting name to watch here. I think Alec Burks.
Yeah, so he shot this past year 38% on threes. What's his defense like?
I got to be honest, I haven't watched him enough night to night to have like a really strong take on his defense. I know that he's been a part of good defensive teams throughout his career.
Yeah, Knicks.
So yeah, Knicks, and obviously with those Utah teams from like 5 years ago.
Yep.
So I'd have to sort of just put more of a watchful eye on his defense, but just offensively, because the biggest thing for the Wolves is go from 16th or 17th in net offensive rating somewhere into the top 10. Mm-hmm. And this is a guy that can stretch the floor a little bit, and you can trust him to be a little bit of a microwave scoring guy off the bench. You know, he's been a double-digit points per game guy for, 5 or 6 different years in his career. Absolutely. And he's not playing 35 minutes. So right. He's a limited minutes guy. And then just some other, you don't have to do a deep dive on all these, but there's some other names that might be vet minimum guys. Robert Covington, former Timberwolf, former everything. Taurean Prince is an unrestricted free agent who can knock down some threes. Wolves fans obviously familiar with him. Mm-hmm. I'd probably throw, I guess Damian Lee could probably fit in this category. So he was a former Warrior and Suns shooting guard coming off a knee injury. He did not play last year, but a guy that was a 40% three-point shooter at the end of his Warriors run. I think he spent, was it 1 year with the Suns? But so, I don't know. Lonzo Ball is a name, if he gets bought out, that we've thrown out there too as a backup point guard. Expected to be ready for training camp, according to reports from Chicago, but I don't know if Chicago is going to keep him around.
Me a little bit. Yeah. Yep.
So there's a whole list of
You know what I'm going? I'm going
potential
Batum, Ingles, Hayward.
Yeah. I think I agree with that.
Batum would probably be a really good get.
Batum, it kind of depends on what you're looking for. Like Batum kind of replaces Kyle Anderson 1-for-1, and maybe even is an upgrade from Kyle Anderson.
Ingles, I just like him.
Ingles is hilarious. He's fun.
That's part of why
he's old.
Him. I just like to watch him play. It doesn't make any sense. He's such a great shooter, and you see him and that body. He literally looks like during the half he might go out and smoke
rip a couple cigs. Yeah.
Like he doesn't, but he looks like a guy who could. Like he looks like he's been transported from the 1966 Cincinnati basketball team or but he can shoot. Like that's not a joke. He can really shoot.
He can. That old man game continues to thrive. And so we'll see. I mean, man, free agency's been kind of wacky so far because it felt like with all the tampering stuff from the last few years, teams and agents, and even now with like the CBA restrictions, there's just been more of a feeling out process to start free agency. But
sure,
the big news, obviously, Paul George going from Clippers to Sixers. Good news for the Wolves because one of the best players in the West goes away from a contender and now winds up in the East. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is the second big-time Nuggets rotation player to leave
Denver
in the last 2 years. Yeah,
that
he goes.
Really hurts.
So Denver's kind of in scramble mode with their rotation. As of the recording of this, Klay Thompson has not made a decision yet, but he is leaving the Warriors. Now, the Warriors might wind up replacing Klay Thompson with Lauri Markkanen, if you believe reports. And that, I think, would be an upgrade for the Warriors.
Yep.
They get younger, bigger, more spry, and still have an electric offensive player to put next to Steph Curry. San Antonio is one to watch. They're also in the Lauri Markkanen sweepstakes, and they just landed Chris Paul, who he's not the same Chris Paul that he was, but to help make Wemby better and to evolve, that's
Chris
an
Paul's
interesting.
incredible, though, man. He is incredible. Like he finds jobs.
He does, and when he's on the court, he's still really valuable. But and then I mean, DeJounte Murray a few days ago makes the Pelicans better. He was traded from Atlanta. Oklahoma City just like an hour ago just signed Isaiah Hartenstein, the Knicks big, so they had some size. They traded for Alex Caruso last week. So I think right now, as we wrap this episode, Pelicans are better than they were. Oklahoma City, I think, is better than they were. San Antonio is not a team to sleep on. I'm not saying they're going to compete at the top of the West, but like they could be a fringe playoff team.
Right.
Feels like Nuggets took a step back, Clippers to this point, but there's still some other things out there that could happen. Like the Lakers are still gunning for maybe Klay Thompson. The Mavericks are trying to get Klay Thompson. So we have to see what happens when the dust settles. But the Timberwolves are basically saying, let's run it back with 2 electric first-round draft picks offensively. Let's go get a Joe Ingles or a Nick Batum or somebody like that to replace Kyle Anderson. And let's let Anthony Edwards get a year better.
Yeah. Yeah, so, which I think the majority of Wolves fans are fine with that.
I'm good with it.
You know, I think it's worth a shot. And hey, look, the one thing is, to your point, they are going to go way into that tax. So like this is not being done on the cheap. Glenn's going to be writing a big check to the league for this. So interesting.
Yep. All right. He's the sports dad, Judd Zulgad. I'm Phil Mackey. This is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast. Happy free agency.